And what's up, everybody? Welcome to a new episode of The Truth. I am John Rocha here on the John Rocha channel. Thanks so much for taking time out of your day to come hang out with me here this evening. Oh, let me adjust the camera. You know what? I'm just going to push it back a little bit. Sometimes that's all it takes here. Yeah. But I'm here to have some fun tonight, hanging out with you all. I don't know how long I'm going to go. Depends on what we've got going on here today. And there we go. What we got in terms of the stories, and then what you guys want to talk about in terms of your questions, thoughts, and comments. You can send in on your Streamlabs and Superchat. So much to get into today that we're going to talk about here tonight, rather, should I say, because it is 5 p.m. PT my time. For those of you tuning in thinking like, wait, where's the hot mic? Where's the hot mic? Clearly you don't. Follow me on social media, and I know I forgot to post this in the community tab on my channel, but Jeff and I could not do the show tonight because of scheduling and issues and what have you. So we're doing it tomorrow, 4 p.m. PT, the hot mic. But I was feeling froggy today, as I tweeted out earlier. I was kind of antsy. I hadn't done a show in a day or two, and I'm usually kind of antsy when I don't do anything on the channel for a day or two. So I thought I'd come on and have some fun tonight, going live, talking about a bunch of stuff that's happening and taking my time through stuff. You know, sometimes with the hot mic, I can't, or with Geek Buddies, I can't spend the extra time I like to spend on a subject or on a topic. And this is what is great about The Truth or any of my other shows that I host solo. I get to take a little bit of time with the topic and go through it, hear from you all. What do you think about the topic? What do you think about the nuances, the tangents, the connected stories to the topic, to the main topic, all those kinds of things. So I appreciate being able to do that because some of you know I like to talk a lot. I'm a little long-winded, but I also like to explore things to the nook and cranny, to the minutia, so that we all understand what the hell is going on one way or another with these things. And so I appreciate you all being willing to be a part of the studio display microphone. Damn it. It doesn't change off. There we go. There we go. All right. There we go. The mic is not broken. The mic is not broken. It's just that it's the studio display mic. Sometimes, I swear to God, it's so hilarious to me. There it is. There it is. So yeah, I don't know. I set it for the computer to do it, but StreamYard has a mind of its own. But I'm telling you, I'm almost done with StreamYard. I'm like this close to done with StreamYard. I don't know what their issues are, but they don't read the program off my main computer to set everything correctly all the time. And so I have situations like this where I start on the wrong mic. I've selected the right mic off of the main settings of the computer, but the program that is StreamYard does not read that. I have to reset everything, which is supremely frustrating. So hopefully I will at some point master the use of OBS and I won't have to worry about that anymore. But I also discovered something called, Prism. And apparently Prism can simulate OBS, so without needing to do all the complicated shit that you have to do with OBS. So at some point, once I figure that out, I'm going to put that in motion, and we'll see where we go from there on the channel. But yeah, thank you guys so much. I appreciate you madly. Thank you to the over 100 of you who joining me live right off the bat. We'll see how many people join us as we go along here. And as I said, the Streamlabs and Super Chats are open. I don't know if I pinned that in the chat. I hope I did. Yes, I did. So if you want to send in your love, questions, thoughts, and comments, feel free to do so. Thank you to Fred Tastic, who's already sent in 3 Streamlabs, which I will get to in a little bit. But tonight we got so much to get into. So sit back, relax. Thanks for hanging out with me. I hope you guys are doing well. I had a pretty busy day today in terms of things that I was finishing off and doing. This morning I went to my eye doctor. For those of you who remember, about a year and a half ago, I had that surgery I replaced the lens. They took the cataracts out of my left eye and they put a lens inside my left eye so that I could see better close up. And then I still have glasses for long distance, which I wear. These are the glasses that I wear for long distance. I have them always available to me in case I want to watch TV from where I'm sitting here at my office, because my TV is right over there. But some of you have asked and sent me DMs. They're like, wait, Rocha, do you have lenses in the glasses that you're wearing? Well, with the Ray-Bans that I wear, these Ray-Bans here, which are my old sets of glasses from a couple years ago, I do not have lenses. I do not have lenses. I don't wear lenses in these, but I like to wear the frame because the frame focuses my eyes. So when I'm hosting shows and I'm like this, all this stuff gets in the way, right? But with my frames, I'm able to keep it focused, right? And I like the look of myself with the glasses, but I appreciate no lenses because there's no glare, and I don't need the lenses because, as I said, the surgery fixed my near vision,
So I don't really need glasses when I'm looking at a phone, looking at a computer, or anything like that. So that's been the gift of that surgery. But it means I rarely have to use my regular glasses here on camera because it actually makes things more blurry. So we'll see. And I had a new examination today, and they told me that my left eye is even better than it was 6 months ago. So that means the surgery is really working, and my eye is adapting. My vision's getting better. So I'll have to get a new prescription and a new set of glasses. So maybe that'll be where we go from there. I'll buy a couple of frames, but then I'll put glasses in those, and we'll go see what we'll go. But that's a pretty penny, and I got to figure things out financially if I want to go and get 2 new pairs of glasses for sure. But yes, this is what I have going on tonight. This is what was going on today. And I'll tell you this, I finished a fantastic Netflix show that I've been meaning to watch for quite some time. I started this last night, and I finished the last 2 episodes this afternoon. And that is Death by Lightning. For those who don't know that show, it is a damn good show that is on Netflix. I highly recommend it, especially for you history buffs. I'm going to bring this up real quick because it is about the death of James Garfield, the assassination of President Garfield. It is actually a damn good show. Let me see. There you go. That's what you. It is so. I'm so surprised at how much I enjoyed this show. It's Michael Shannon as President James Garfield. Here, let me. Where's the one I like to do? Is this the one I like to do? Yeah. No. Yeah, here we go. That one. So this is Michael Shannon as President James Garfield, who was assassinated a little over 100 days in office. Matthew McFadden, who some of you know from Succession, he plays the assassin. It's a 4-episode miniseries. It was the writer of it was nominated for an Emmy. I think Nick Offerman, who plays the next president, Chester A. Arthur, who is Garfield's vice president, he is in the show as well. And the great Shea Whigham plays this New York senator who was a thorn in the side of Garfield. And then you have Bradley Whitford, who, of course, is no stranger to politics, having been in The West Wing. Betty Gilpin, for those of you fans of Glow or The Hunt, she plays Garfield's wife. And is there anyone else that's of big note in the cast? There's an Irish actress who is in the show I watch on PBS called Ridley. She's in for small parts. And, geez, I'm trying to remember if there's anyone else of note in the cast. But, no, I mean, it's a very strong cast, and it's a 4-episode series. And I'm telling you, if you're a history buff, if you're into really good acting, really well-written scripts, I highly recommend it. It's produced by Benioff and Weiss, the guys who did House of the Dragon, but it's written by the guy who wrote Bad Education, which was the Hugh Jackman movie with Allison Janney from a couple of years ago, or a few years ago, I guess now. And I was really surprised at how much I enjoyed the series. Do I have a couple of complaints because it was only 4 episodes in terms of the build-up to certain things? Yes. But overall, I think it's a fantastic show that kind of speaks to what's going on in our politics now. This idea of corruption, this idea of a machine where people get rewarded because they are buddy-buddy with the person who is in charge versus what James Garfield was trying to do, which is come in and kind of break that whole system and give the power back to the people. He actually had like meetings with citizens. American citizens could show up to the White House at a certain time and you could get an audience with President Garfield. Like he would sit down with you and have a conversation with you for 5 minutes. So, I mean, can you even imagine that happening now in the last, 60 years with any president, or 100 years, I guess, with any president sitting down? And maybe because he was assassinated, that is a reason why presidents don't do it. But anyway, if you guys haven't seen this, I highly, highly recommend it. You guys should definitely see this, all right? Another thing I recommend, which is out in theaters now, if you haven't seen Tony, the new biopic on Anthony Bourdain, it is absolutely excellent. I really enjoyed it. It's one of the best biopics I've seen in a long time. You guys know I wasn't the biggest fan of Michael in terms of the overall construction and the script and the way they told the story, because they didn't show any warts on Michael. What I liked about this film is that they show you Anthony Bourdain, warts and all. He's a young guy. It's only a limited amount of time in his life when he goes to New England and he works for this seafood restaurant because he's trying to be a writer, but they reject him at the places that he goes to. So he ends up falling into this job chasing a girl that's played by Emilia Jones, who, of course, is the lead actress in Coda, the young girl in Coda, which won Best Picture. And it shows the journey he goes on with himself, and he drinks, he uses drugs, he gets in trouble, he gets into violent altercations. And Antonio Banderas plays the guy who runs the seafood restaurant, and he learns from him the joy of cooking, right? And although you see him discover all of that, they don't shy away from his instincts to get in trouble, his instincts to make mistakes, his instincts to do things that could mess him up even more. You see that he's got a very difficult family life with a mom who's not the biggest fan of his, with a father who dotes on him. And we see the relationship between him and Emilia Jones progress throughout the movie, which I think is really cool and realistic. If you remember being in your 20s and being cockstrong and thinking you could do everything, and meeting that one woman who kind of put you in your place and woke you up to what's going on in the world. And I really enjoyed that. And Leo Woodall is really good, as well as this even more troublesome character in the movie and what they go through. So I highly recommend, if you guys haven't seen it, it's a very unusual biopic, because you don't leave that movie going, yes, I'm going to go be a chef. You leave that movie going, wow, this is a guy who was full of a lot of flaws and still found his way to pursue the things that he wants to do with his life. And when the door closed for him to be a writer and the window opened for him to be a chef, he went through that window to become a chef, and then found his way back to being a writer, for those of you who've read Kitchen Confidential. So it's a great story as well for those of you who are caught up in the fact that I tried to do one thing, it didn't work out. What can I do with my life now? There are possibilities. I mean, I had that with me, right? I mean, I wanted to be this actor, and I was. I booked things. I made thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars throughout the years, but I wasn't happy. I wasn't satisfied. So I fell ass backwards into this, thanks to Christian Harloff, and here I am still doing it 10 years later and enjoying it. And people like you are watching me, right? Almost 200 people are hanging out with me live watching this right now. So it's all these things that happen. You just never know what's going to happen for you. So anyway, let me take this down, because this has been up the whole time. Well, I've been talking about a different. So I highly recommend those two things. If you haven't watched them, Tony and Death by Lightning, those are really good. And then did we watch anything else last night? Did we finish up? We've been watching Worst Neighbor Ever on Netflix. Also something I highly recommend if you guys haven't watched that. That is a lot of fun as well. So there you go. All right. Anything else that I've been watching? Anything else I can recommend that I want? No, if you guys aren't watching Reacher, highly recommend Reacher. If you haven't watched the first episode of Lanterns, we're going to get into some Lantern stuff tonight as well. And is there anything else that I've been watching? The Seattle Seahawks Hard Knocks on HBO Max. That's been a fun watch. And I think that's everything for now. I might have more stuff by the end of the weekend. Maybe next time I go live, I'll have more recommendations for you all. But I'm trying to, recommend more things and have you guys enjoy these things. So hopefully at some point, some of you will get a chance of them. No, I have not watched Night Jedi yet. I promise. And I promise everybody watching, I will watch it this weekend. Maybe I can convince Vogel to do a review with me, even though it's been out for over a week now. Maybe I'll convince him to do a review with me. We'll see. And for those of you mentioning Lioness, the Lady Outlaw, she has a rule in our house that if a show drops, we have to wait 3 episodes or 4 episodes before we can start watching it, because she doesn't like to just watch week to week. It's a really rare show that she's willing to watch week to week. The Agency was one of those that she was willing to watch week to week, but Lioness is not. She loves Lioness. She devours that show when she starts watching it. So she gets mad when we've run out of episodes and she has to wait. So just letting you know that that's something that she's. One last show we watched, which for those of you, because I love British shows. For those of you who have the BritBox app, there's a great show called Gone that dropped just a few days ago with Eva Miles and the actor who played the governor in Walking Dead. And it focuses on the death of a headmaster's wife at a school and who really killed her, the mystery of who killed her. It's a good 6-episode series there on BritBox. For those who have the app, if you like British TV, I highly, highly recommend BritBox and Acorn TV. Those are 2 apps that I have. All right. Hell of an intro. 15 minutes in, over 200 of you joining me right now. Thank you so much. And thank you to Tim, who's sending in some really great super chats. Tim, thank you so much, brother. We're going to get to those questions in just a little bit, but let's get into our first story. I don't have graphics, so I'm just going to put up stories and we're going to talk about them. And there is so much to get into here today. So let's start with the, what do we want to start with? Where is it? What am I here? Where do I have first up on the list here? No, that's not it. Where is it here? Oh yeah, let's get into the Marvel stuff. So let's get into the Marvel stuff. Let's talk about that. That's probably the first thing we should be talking about here. So this is coming to us from Screen Rant. And let's talk about this because this is a really curious situation with Screen Rant. And let's make this a little bit bigger because I want to make sure we have everybody reading along with us. So let's zoom in a little bit. Multiple Marvel live action shows are reportedly in development at Disney Plus. While the Marvel, this is from Andy Bebcott. I hope I'm saying that right. Andy Bebacht. Is it Bebacht? Bebacht. Sorry, Andy. If I'm mauling your last name, I apologize, brother. This is a really nice write-up. While the Marvel Cinematic Universe is not leaving the big screen anytime soon, there have been a lot of questions surrounding its content on the small screen. As Vision Quest is premiering this October, followed by Daredevil Born Again Season 3, things have been uncertain as of late when it comes to future TV properties in the MCU timeline. However, despite shocking announcements like Wonder Man Season 2 not moving forward, and we're going to get to Yahya Abdul Mateen's comments about that, after its initial renewal, the Disney Plus era for Marvel Studios may be taking a positive direction. Puck's Julia Alexander recently revealed in her latest newsletter that the MCU TV era is seemingly not ending on the Disney streaming platforms anytime soon. So let's go to that thing, because I want to read Julia's lines completely. So this is what she said. What's up with Marvel's Disney Plus slate? Let's make sure that's okay. Let me pull it down here so you guys can read it with me. Where is it? Oh, let me say. Sometimes I have to make it a little bit bigger to do this thing here. So, what's up with Marvel's Disney Plus slate? Among all the news coming out of D23, the biannual event where Disney superfans pay hundreds of dollars to watch trailers, it's a little cynical, but okay, it didn't escape notice that not a single new Marvel show was announced for Disney Plus. I guess our plan is just Spider-Man, one executive texted me on Sunday, half kidding. In fact, I've learned that there are multiple live-action Marvel series in development for Disney Plus, with announcements expected soon. Integrating a new batch of X-Men characters set to appear in Avengers Doomsday and expanding the theatrical universe further with new characters like Marvel's Nova, which is going to be a movie, which is currently in development, may bleed in. So let's read that again. Integrating a new batch of X-Men characters set to appear in Avengers Doomsday and expanding the theatrical universe further with new characters like Marvel's Nova, which is currently in development, may bleed into the streamer's franchise strategy. But the slowdown does raise questions about Marvel's larger strategy post-Doomsday and October's Vision Quest, the one new Marvel series currently slated for release. It also raises questions about the superhero genre writ large. Last week, it was reported that DC had quietly shelved 2 promised series, Waller and Paradise Lost. You guys know I told you back in February that Paradise Lost was canceled, although they kept saying it was in extreme development. I knew it was canceled back in February. Feel about that however you feel about that. HBO Max's Peacemaker, the first DCU show to crack Nielsen's top 10, didn't get a 3rd season. Amazon's Gen V, which recorded a 90% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 424 million minute debut in its first week, good for 8th on Nielsen's weekly top 10 streaming chart, got canceled due to production costs. Disney's Wonder Man was renewed, then quietly unrenewed. We'll see what happens with HBO's Lantern starring Kyle Chandler, which is getting sterling reviews after debuting this week. The problem, of course, is that accolades for pushing shows like Ms. Marvel or Moon Knight don't necessarily translate to new audiences. To wit, Daredevil Born Again's 2nd season pulled an 86% audience score on RT, among the best any Marvel title has earned, but it never cracked Nielsen's originals charts. And what streamers need now more than ever is wider reach. Lanterns might buck that trend, but the era of big budget niche swings is ending. Why spend $50 million on a show that delights only fans who were already subscribed and who are never going to cancel in the first place? That's a very, very good point there from Julia Alexander. Like, what are you bringing in new people with the shows you are greenlighting, or are you not? And so what is the approach now going forward? What are these Disney shows that they are developing, or Disney Plus shows that Marvel is developing to put on that stream? Because remember, earlier in the week, Collider, let's bring that up. Collider reported that they were going to stop doing these things, which is what a lot of people were speculating after what happened with Wonder Man season 2, that it was going to be the end of it. So this is Vision Quest could officially mark the end of an era for Marvel. This was supposedly an exclusive by Adam Blevins at Collider 6 days ago. Marvel has released 2 of the series. Marvel's next big Disney Plus shows on slate is Vision Quest. While it was believed that more shows were on the way after its conclusion, that is no longer the case. This was 6 days ago. Collider has learned that after Vision Quest, Marvel Studios will be cutting back on live action Disney Plus shows. This excludes returning series like Daredevil Born Again and existing series, of course, as well as potential miniseries that may be developed under the Marvel Presents and Marvel Spotlight banners. Marvel continues to trust the steady hand of Brad Winderbaum, who has long been the head of Marvel Studios streaming and animation divisions, but who was recently also promoted to further oversee comics and franchise development, a move that arrived in May just before a clear shift began to manifest in Marvel's future televised plans. Last month at San Diego Comic-Con, Wonder Man was completely left out of Marvel's heavy presence at the event the week before it was canceled. In fact, Marvel CEO Kevin Feige didn't speak about the studio's television presence at all during the presentation, which focused entirely on the MCU's big screen future with an emphasis on Avengers Doomsday, alongside exciting announcements for Ghost Rider and Black Panther 3. Looking back, the lack of live-action TV announcements at Comic-Con is glaring, and it would be quite a pivot if there is no live-action series news at D23 this weekend beyond Vision Quest. And there wasn't, considering the event has been a staple for Marvel show announcements in recent years. So Collider previously heard that Disney used shows like The Acolyte, Willow, and even Wonder Man as grand experiments to compete with other streamers like Netflix and HBO Max, blah, 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 blah. So this is interesting because, like, I think there's somewhere in the middle is the truth, right? Like, what Julia Alexander is saying in Puck is that she's heard and she knows, or she's been told, that there are multiple Disney shows in development, right, for Marvel shows in development for Disney. But Adam's reporting might be correct because they might be being developed to be potential miniseries for Marvel Presents and Marvel Spotlight. So they won't necessarily be like Moon Knight or Daredevil Born Again or these other type of series like She-Hulk or what have you that Marvel did. These will be limited miniseries within the umbrella of Marvel Presents or Marvel Spotlight. And I'll tell you why I think this is possible and why both of these reports might be a combo of both of these reports might be the truth. Because I've heard I got a text or I got a message today from my source about this whole situation. All right. And my source was telling me here, they are filming some kind of special in February. Marvel is not sure what it is yet. And she also pointed out, my source also pointed out that Julia, is a bit confused here. Said Nova is a movie now, and they're not making a show for the Fox X-Men. There's not going to be, according to my sources, they are not making a show for the Fox X-Men. So some people were speculating that could be a show on Disney Plus. That it seems to not be the plan. They are filming some kind of special in February, but not sure what it is yet. And I said, well, is it a show with an X-Man instead of all the X-Men, maybe one X-Man? And my source said, I don't think so. I heard 2 leads for this special, so maybe it's Heroes for Hire, which is why that's on my thumbnail for this particular episode, or some detective special. That's what my source says, or some detective special, right? Which goes along with what Jeff said, I think last week or 2 weeks ago on the Hot Mic, that they could be looking to do like a True Detective or detective type special show, which of course then would be true what Julia Alexander said, that they were developing new Marvel series, but could also be true with what Brian was saying with Collider, that they are miniseries under the umbrella of Marvel Presents or Marvel Spotlight. So that may be the way they want to go, so that it's a limited amount of episodes. The production budget isn't as high. They can maybe push, additional storylines through these episodes, or flesh out a newer character or a new character that we can enjoy in the Marvel universe, and we can have fun with them. I mean, One Last Kill, the Punisher thing, Wolverine by Night, so there's the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special. So we've seen that as a possibility. So maybe it's 2, 3, 4 episode miniseries that's being developed, not necessarily like Wonder Man, a whole entire series, or Echo, or these other series. So it may be that that's what's going on here, is that they are developing new shows, but they're not developing the shows to be like 8 to 10 episodes, or 6 even. They may be limited to 4, 3, or 2, or even 1, as we saw with One Last Kill. That may be the path they're walking down as well. So we will see what they end up doing, because I just never believed that Marvel was going to walk away from TV completely. There's just too much to do there, and you've got to keep subscribers. So yes, maybe you're not adding more subscribers by developing or by putting out some of these shows, but if you stop doing Marvel TV, I think people would unsubscribe. I know Julia Alexander over there at Puck said they're not going to cancel anyway. They might. If you're not putting up Marvel content anymore other than the movies, some people just buy them physical media or buy them on digital. There are websites where you can watch these movies just fine. And so that's the situation we look at this thing. So maybe people would unsubscribe, because eventually there's not enough newer Marvel content for them to sink their teeth into. So I never bought that they were not going to do TV shows ever again. I did think that it was going to be much more exclusive. So maybe the Marvel Spotlight Marvel Presents, these are like the exclusive approach to things. So you have that going on there with Marvel. So we'll see. I mean, I think this is an interesting situation when you look at it, the path they want to walk down for sure. So we'll see. All right, 250 of you joining me live right now. Thank you so much. Appreciate you hanging out with me on a Thursday night. I know for those of you who were maybe hoping to see the hot mic, we are going to be tomorrow at 4 p.m. PT, not tonight. I'm just going solo because I felt froggy and I wanted to spend some time with these topics, kind of fleshing them out without Jeff going, you know what, I'm done with this topic. Let's move on. Because I like to kind of explore topics and go into them. And you guys know that if you watch my show, I am going to do that. So you know that going in this situation. Athena said, seems to make sense to keep certain hero franchises as TV content. Maybe their reason for keeping with Daredevil, even with the numbers. Well, I think with Daredevil, it's more a matter they were committed. And there's nothing, I think they had to see that thing out. And I think they think once they move the politics out of that show, which is what's going to happen without Kingpin in season 3. I think Kingpin will still be in it, maybe as a cameo. But they're going to focus much more on the adventures of Daredevil. That could be a lot of fun. And I think they're going to use Daredevil clearly, as we've seen Kristen Ritter already come back. We've seen Mike Coulter. We've seen the actor who plays Danny Rand. We've seen them on set, or pictures of them on set. So clearly they're going to use that to launch Defenders. Maybe that's what launches that Heroes for Hire miniseries that'll be a Marvel Presents or Marvel Spotlight thing for sure. So we will see. Yeah, I know. I hate that they never did anything else. I hear you. I hear you, man. And put a pin in that, because I want to come back to that in just a little bit. So just hang on, because I want to talk about that in just a little bit. But let's move on to, speaking of Marvel, let's move on to, and Marvel television series, let's move on to what Yahya Abdul Mateen II had to say about the situation that's going on here. Yahya, this is with Vanity Fair. Let me make sure I get myself in the right. How can I default it to go to that? I wonder if there's a way to default it to go to that. I would like to be able to do that if I could. So anyway, Yahya Abdul Mateen II was in. He's been doing a number of interviews. He was on NPR as well, but he did this for Vanity Fair, interviewed by Rebecca Ford, who I always enjoy her articles and her writing on these things. And you get the little intro talking about everything he's done, talking about Wonder Man, talking about getting the Emmy nomination, all these things, and how humbled he was by all of it, and playing Simon Williams. So it's a good read if you guys want to take a look at it. But she interviews him, right? And he's got The Adventures of Cliff Booth coming soon as well. But so here's the interview. It's very meta that Wonder Man was a show about this heartbreak in show business, and here is the show being canceled. And he said, well, it's a lesson in life. It's so close to what real life is. You have just this guy, Simon, who finally had his dreams come true, but we saw him overcome after all of his attempts of getting close and then not closing the deal. Many people have that experience in real life. Very true. The cancellation of the show is just another one of those examples. So very meta in that way that Simon wasn't able to lock down the thing and had it canceled, his opportunity canceled, just like the show was canceled in real life. Did you get a specific reason for the cancellation? Yes, I did. I was told that it had something to do with the viewership numbers. I wasn't told what those numbers were, but ultimately, for whatever reason, I think they decided that it didn't make sense for business, and that's the decision that we live with, and we keep on marching forward. How much had you talked about where we go next season? Well, I stayed away from that. I think we have fantastic writers. They did a great job of setting the tone for season 1. So I had my hopes and my dreams about where I wanted the character to go for season 2. I was very interested in telling the story of Simon, who we watched pursue everything he's always wanted. And then I think for me, the interesting question to explore is, well, what are you going to do when you finally get it? What do you do when you finally get everything that you've always wanted? And for a guy like Simon to get fame and notoriety and a little bit of power, he has a big heart, but he also has an ego. He also wants to be a star. Andrew Guest mentioned in his video about the cancellation that fans were having conversations about the kind of stories that we're prioritizing. There's been online discourse between the cancellation of this and Mahershala Ali's frustration about the Blade film. Your own production company focuses on telling more Black and inclusive stories. Do you feel like there is a problem with what is and isn't being greenlit or supported? And Yahya says, I think the optics are obvious. If I'm a big business, if I'm Disney, if I'm Marvel, I don't want to be attached to these optics. So it should be a priority to change that narrative and to do what it takes to responsibly change that narrative with quality stories, with quality resources. I felt that our show did have quality story, did have quality resources, did have quality actors and people, and the voters responded to it positively. So our show does deserve some study and some real hard information about why a show like this did not continue forward, because it had all of the ingredients that one would want in a show. So then she goes on to ask him about his preparation and how he played the character. So as I said, it's a really good interview to read if you want some more background on Yahya and how he approached the character of Simon Williams and how the show unfurled itself, and a little more into who he is as a person and what he looks for and how he prepares for roles and what he wants to do with his career going forward. But this is interesting, but I want to focus on these answers because he said, I was told it had something to do with viewership numbers. I wasn't told what those numbers were, but ultimately, for whatever reason, I think they decided to make sense for business, the decision we live with. So this is fascinating to me because you're told that this doesn't go forward. Then you're not told what the numbers are. So you don't even know what numbers you need to hit. So you're away, so you can keep going with the show. And this show did do, I think it hit one of the episodes was like number 9 on the Nielsen ratings, I think it was, or one of the episodes got into the top 10 of the Nielsen ratings. But maybe overall it didn't quite get there. That being said, I would be very shocked that the Daredevil numbers were that much more than the Wonder Man numbers. And this is where the suspicion comes in for those of us who watch this stuff and pay attention to this stuff. Because why isn't Disney showing us the numbers? I believe they're not showing us the numbers because they know that if they show Daredevil, a white-led show, is doing less numbers than a black-led show, and you're giving it a season 3 and not canceling that, but you're canceling a season 2 of Wonder Man after you'd already proved a season 2 of Wonder Man, that's an issue. Those optics get even worse when you look at the optics that we're dealing with now, get even worse if you look at it that way. So this idea that these companies get to hide numbers, I think is bullshit. I think they should absolutely be required to show their numbers so that we as the audience, we as analysts, we as people who have a right to call out companies if they're not like servicing their viewers and their needs, meeting their needs, have a right to say, well, why didn't you do this? We have a right to question Josh D'Amaro or Brad Winderbaum or anybody who's in power. Hey, why aren't you continuing with Wonder Man season 2 when these numbers are so good compared to the other shows? You know what I'm saying? And I think that's where the problem lies. I mean, Moon Knight, I can understand that not going forward because the numbers weren't great, and I would imagine, and the critical reception wasn't that strong. But Wonder Man was something that completely blew up, and people were talking about it in the pop culture zeitgeist. Okay. And so I just am frustrated that we don't get these numbers. The same thing with Netflix. Netflix doesn't always surrender their numbers. So these are the things that I think we need to have transparency. You guys know me. If you follow me long enough, you know I'm very big on transparency. What's the truth here? Show us the numbers. Let us see what's actually happening here. Because if you don't, then you let people look at what you're doing and assume certain narratives are going on. And I don't think you want those narratives to be out there. And certainly with Disney, we know, although ABC is or Disney is finally pushing back on Trump with the FCC, they're suing, they're put the lawsuit to stop the removing of broadcasting licenses. But that's more a matter of like overall, right? It's not necessarily like, well, we want to protect our black shows or we want to protect our diversity shows. That's more an approach. We want to protect our entire income source to put whatever shows they want out there. That's what that lawsuit is all about. If you take away our broadcasting license, then we're in some real trouble. Or worse, if you start telling us what we can put on our airwaves, that's an issue as well. But with this stuff, I think I think what he says here that they did everything that they were supposed to do. They had quality writers, quality actors, quality characters, quality direction, and a quality story that people really liked and gravitated to. Now, I see some snarky bitches on social media who are like, oh, because it didn't have the viewership. They don't know. They have no fucking clue. Okay. And so to me, it's like, this is the thing we have to find out so that we have some information and we can go forward with that information and understand the thinking of what they're trying to do. And some people might be like, they don't owe you anything. Fine. They don't. I think they do. And I think because we pay the bills, we pay the subscriber fees every month, we have a right to demand certain things of these companies. If we are keeping these companies afloat by going to their movies, buying these tickets, subscribing to their streaming services, buying their merchandise, keeping them in the fucking jobs that they have, we absolutely have a right to request these things and get these numbers. And I wish there was a way, and I know some of you may be like, there's bigger things that Congress needs to worry about, but I wish there was a way to get it to be a requirement that all of these streaming services and all of these channels and all of these companies have to make their ratings public, have to make their viewership numbers public so that we have a better idea of what's going on. And we as an audience can be like, well, damn, we really dropped the ball on a certain show that we really liked. Next time a show like this comes around, we better make sure we watch it. We better make sure we give it its ratings, right? And so I think this is an element of that as well. And then the second part here, when he's talking about optics, which is what I was just kind of alluding to as well, he said, I think the optics are obvious. If I'm a big business, if I'm Disney, if I'm Marvel, I don't want to be attached to these optics. So this is a bold comment from Yahya Abdul Mateen II, because again, there's no second season of Wonder Man, but there is a Doomsday movie and a Secret Wars movie coming. And so for you to be like, well, if I'm Disney, I don't want to be attached. You're essentially telling Disney in kind of a passive aggressive way, like, you don't want to be attached to this stuff. So you need to be aware of changing this narrative, right? To do what it takes to responsibly change that narrative with quality stores, with quality resources. So he's saying, don't just cast black people, don't just cast women or people of color or disability, people with disabilities or LGBTQ plus. Like, if you're going to do shows like this, you have to have quality stories and quality resources. I think he speaks a language that a majority of us speak. We want good shows. And if you strip away the anti-woke, anti-DEI people, what is the thing they always say? Just give us a good story. Now, I don't believe, 90% of them actually believe that. But the thing is, you could satisfy everybody by doing good shows, quality shows, good writing, good acting. Wonder Man did that. And so in the end, what really happened here without the numbers, we can't really say, because I don't trust an executive to tell me what the numbers were, or to say if they were good or bad. I don't mean the specific numbers, but to say the judgment that they were good or bad. I would like an independent third party that gets access to all this stuff, that issues the actual numbers, the viewership numbers. I think we have a right to take a look at that, as I was saying earlier. So this is the thing. So he says it produced quality results that viewers responded to positively, that the voters responded to positively. So our show does deserve some study and some real hard information. So he's saying that. I think he's essentially calling Disney on the mat. He's saying, A, these are bad optics. You don't want to be attached to these optics. You need to fix these optics. And earlier he was saying, I don't know what the numbers are, but I like to see the numbers. But he said our show deserves some study and some real hard information about why a show like this did not continue forward, because it had all the ingredients that one would want in a show. So he's saying, I need Disney to give me the information to prove to me why this thing was canceled. So it's a gutsy move by Yahya. He's a damn good actor. He's certainly no wallflower. So his talent and his performances earn him some cachet here. But I wonder if this means Disney's going to freeze him out for like Doomsday or Secret Wars, because a lot of people really enjoyed his Wonder Man. And maybe he knows he's not in Doomsday or Secret Wars. And so he's feeling the need that he can speak freely about this in the way that he is in this interview and other interviews. So it's an interesting situation on so many levels because it's important. Comics Real says, Rocha, I asked a friend who works over at Disney, and they told me they didn't do it because of Destined Schedule and that they were working on a holiday special presentation. Yeah, it was never about Destined Schedule. The showrunner came out and said that. He said, if you guys have watched that Instagram video he did, he said everyone was on board. Everyone had their schedule cleared. Everyone was ready to come back. It wasn't because Spider-Man made a cajillion dollars that Destin Daniel Cretton didn't want to come back. He was excited to come back. They were putting together a writer's room. They had already started mapping out storylines. So this was in motion. And in the end, it didn't happen. And I think that's a shame on so many levels. Yes, Owen, but they don't submit those numbers. They're not required to submit those numbers specifically per episode, right? Nielsen only tells you this show broke through, this episode broke through and got into the top 10. But they don't give you the full actual numbers because these streaming services are not required to do that. So I think that's really frustrating on so many levels. I love how you guys think like, Rocha, have you ever heard of Nielsen? Yes, I fucking heard of Nielsen. But that's not the same thing of what I'm asking about. So it's more a matter of like, we need the actual hard numbers. If you say Nielsen, go ahead. Show me the link that Nielsen gives me every episode and its viewing numbers. Show me that link. I will eat my words. You show me that link. I will go look at it. I will pull it up on the screen and we'll go episode by episode. And then we'll compare to Daredevil Born Again. You know what? You can't because it doesn't exist. So that's why you can't do that whole thing in terms of that. So yeah, ratings on broadcast are because of commercial sale. Exactly, Elena. Go ratings on the broadcast. Yes, you can get Nielsen ratings on broadcast shows, but you cannot get them on streaming shows. That's the difference. And that's what I'm getting at. They don't need to do those. So right, exactly. Kevin says, Yahya Abdul can act. Wonder Man was boring. Not a surprise it got canceled. All right, Kevin. I'm sure you can write a better show or act in a better way down the road. All right, let's answer some questions here before we move on to a little bit more of the other stuff I want to talk about. Let's take a quick peruse around the neighborhood here. Brian Davison, Rocha, once more, I'm dropping support for your hard work lately, man. You are putting in that work with Harloff, Winston, and the buddies. And I, for one, am always happy to drop support. Avengers Assemble! Because I can. Thank you, Brian. It's very kind of you, bro. I always humbling when you come in with the kind words and the positive words of encouragement means a lot. And I appreciate you, man. And thanks for supporting it. For everyone who's supporting us by sending Streamlabs and Superchats, I appreciate you. LA Nerd Girl said, support for you and the truth. Looking forward to many more. Thank you, LA Nerd Girl. Yeah, I'm trying to make myself do more of these. Go live and talk about this stuff, because it's I enjoy talking about this and I enjoy touching base with you all, honestly. Zion Miguel says, do you have any fan cast for Magneto, actors in their 40s? Also, what do you think of Josh O'Connor for Hank McCoy? Yeah, I don't think Josh O'Connor for Hank McCoy. That doesn't really strike me. I've seen some people suggest Josh for Magneto, and I've gone, I kind of like Josh O'Connor for Magneto. I don't know if Josh has any Jewishness in his background. I don't know if they're going to connect Magneto up to the Holocaust, but I think Josh is a fantastic actor. And I think he'd be amazing as Magneto. But the other names that we heard here, and this, by the way, this was posted in a number of places, but there is no like actual article. But Complex Pop Culture, and Complex is not really known for posting bullshit, but they posted this earlier today. Magneto will officially appear in Marvel's X-Men film in 2028, which has been reported all around, including Deadline reported a few days ago. But they mentioned Lee Pace, Henry Cavill, and Matt Smith are reportedly being eyed for Magneto. Now, when I look at Christopher Abbott, I don't know that Lee Pace or Matt Smith, I feel like both of them would act Christopher under the table. So I don't know necessarily that that's the right combo. Now, Henry Cavill, I think it's a fascinating name. I think it's utter bullshit. I don't think they're actually looking at him at all for Magneto. But if he was to play Magneto, that would be really interesting, like a muscular Magneto. Although we've seen in the comics and certainly X-Men 97, he's quite, a built dude. So maybe. But I mean, this role has to have a lot of depth and complexity and nuance. And that isn't always what comes to mind with Henry. Although I did love him in Man of Steel. I thought that he had some really tender moments and emotional moments in Man of Steel and BVS. But I don't know that he'd necessarily be the choice. Matt Smith is a very distinct possibility. I mean, he's been on a run lately. So I would not be surprised if Matt Smith is in the conversation. So we will see. We will see. Tim Simpsons, thank you, Tim. Very, very much appreciate this very kind donation. Interesting online talk I had with international film fans about this Chinese film that premiered this past weekend in China, along with The Odyssey, Once Upon a Time in the Middle East, which they say that Americans need to see because it deals with the Iraq War. Basically, we know politically how it was a mistake for our country to go to war in Iraq. But what we don't see, which this film portrays, is the horror on the ground innocent Iraqis see from our American warfare and how communities are devastated. Well, I will put that on my radar, Tim. You know me, I'm not one to shy away from looking at the hard stuff that we do around the world and the way it unfortunately comes back on us, comes back on its citizens, comes back on its soldiers. As a former Army man myself, I am acutely aware of that. So this sounds like a really interesting film to explore that. Because the thing is, sometimes we get caught up that like America's always doing the right thing, going to war, doing the things that we're doing. It's not always the truth. Sometimes we have ulterior motives, which is, the reality of the world is sometimes we have ulterior motives. And we wonder sometimes why people hate us in other countries. Well, seeing movies like this can open our eyes possibly. And I haven't seen the movie, so I don't know, but can open our eyes up to what it's like to be on the other side of us. We're so used to being Americans that sometimes we forget what's it like to not be American and be in another country and see what we do in that country. Would we be happy about our country if we saw it from their perspective? So I think this is a very interesting thing, Tim. Thanks for bringing it to light and bringing it to my attention. I will absolutely take a look at this one, Once Upon a Time in the Middle East. And, we've been seeing a lot of filmmakers from the Middle East lately coming through and putting their movies out and having them be nominated here in the States. So I think that's a great thing to open the door to all perspectives so we can have a more well-rounded approach to things, and so we'll see. Thank you very much, man. Let's see. Jimmy says to keep Yahya, Wonder Man should lead Thunderbolts 2. Him and Trevor are fugitives. They come across something evil or a dangerous secret while on the run. They enlist a team of Trevor's criminal contacts to help save the world. It's a great idea, Jimmy. I don't think there'll be a Thunderbolts 2, especially because Thunderbolts 1 didn't make a lot of money. Maybe there'll be an Avengers film that comes out of Doomsday and Secret Wars, where you could do a new Avengers type of movie that would essentially be Thunderbolts 2. And maybe Yahya and Trevor would be Wonder Man, Simon and Trevor would be a part of that. That could be interesting. But I like this idea. I mean, anything where we see Trevor and Simon again, I'm 100% on board. That's one of the biggest reasons why I hate that it was canceled, because those two had wonderful chemistry. Absolutely. Who would have thought that Yahya Abdul Mateen and Ben Kingsley would be put together? Sir Ben Kingsley would be put together and then find that chemistry, all these. I remember watching Gandhi in the theater back in the early 80s. That's how long ago Ben Kingsley has been in my life, and Yahya is a very recent addition in my mind. So to see the fact that they have this very easy chemistry and the meta stuff about acting, for me personally, it spoke to me in a lot of ways as well. So yeah, we'll see. Reggie says just donating. Want to go? Oh, thank you, Reggie. I appreciate that, man. That's very kind of you, dude. Very kind of you. WV Grad says, I want to start Green Lantern Blackest Night. Is the 9-issue miniseries sufficient, or do I need to read some of the side story tie-in comics as well? No, the 9-story thing is sufficient. If you have the money to afford the tie-in comics, sure, feel free, but you can always find those online. I'm not trying to take money out of comic book shops, but if you wanted to read comic books online, there are quite a few sites that post them, and you can read them for free. You have to deal with the annoying ads, but you can read them for free. So if you buy the full 9-issue miniseries and then read the side comics for free on those sites, then I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, because listen, we're all in economic, we all have economic issues. We all have tough times. And so if we can't afford to buy those extra comics, to read them, to have a better idea of a more fleshed out enjoyment of the story, I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. I don't necessarily say everyone should do it, but I'm just saying if you're in a situation financially, there are options, Dennis, what's up, Dennis? He said, it feels like Marvel TV is a different group again, like pre-Disney Plus. Could they get back to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. type shows, more network TV / cheaper? I don't know that they would necessarily do that. And nothing is cheaper on network anymore, dude. Nothing other than reality shows. Because the cost of everything, the cost of products, the cost of all this kind of thing, nothing is cheaper anymore. So I don't think they'd be able to go back to cheaper TV shows, to be honest with you, Dennis. Also, network TV, I mean, it's the rare show that is only like 10 episodes or whatever. Most network TV is like 20 episodes. Remember Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? It was like 20 to 22 episodes, I think, a season. So that's what you deal with there on network TV. So it's a rarity. So that's why streaming is easier. So because you have less episodes and more time to tell the story. KJ says Halle Berry wasn't A-list at the time of her X-Men casting, but she was the biggest black star in her age group at the time. Angela Bassett was older. Yeah, but not much older, bro. You're still fighting this fight, aren't you, KJ? You're still fighting this fight. There's a majority of us who felt like Halle wasn't the choice for Storm. Nothing against her, of course. She went on to become a really good actress. I don't know that she was the biggest black star. I don't know. I'd have to take a look to see, because honestly, dude, you're going back to the 90s and there wasn't a lot of roles for black women, period. So to say she was the biggest black star, it's almost like by default, because there weren't a lot of roles for black women in that time. And let's see here. Let's take a look here. Halle Berry is 60 years old. She looks amazing. Angela Bassett is 68 years old. So she was 8 years older than Halle Berry was at the time. But I think they wanted someone who was classically more attractive, and Halle Berry certainly had those classic looks too, and I think that's another element of why they cast her. Obviously, her talent is part of that as well, but I think that was an element of it. But yeah, I would have gone with Angela Bassett. It's a stronger actress. Dennis Hoffman says studio streamers will never share more data than they absolutely need to, or guilds fight for it. Also, I feel the ratings on everything would not be great since viewership is so fragmented. Yeah, but I mean, they must be using some kind of system. And that's my point. We have to have access to this stuff so we can have a better idea of what's going on. Because right now, we're just at the whim of these executives who tell us what they think, what is got higher viewership, what didn't, right? And I think when it comes to Black-led shows, people of color-led shows, female-led shows, LGBTQ plus-led shows, we need to see what's happening. Like Sibling Rivalry blew up, right? That was a massive hit. And so it's like, okay, that one did well, had a lot of ratings. But Wonder Man was in the pop culture zeitgeist. When that came out, people were talking about articles, videos, like it was happening. So to me, there was a lot of buzz around that show that was comparable, not equal to, but comparable to Heated Rivalry. So where is this numbers? Where are these numbers? Fred says Sir Ben is like Emily Blunt in that they both have great chemistry with whoever they work with. I agree, Fred. You're right. 5-year engagement with Jason Segel. She has great chemistry with Jason Segel. It's pretty amazing to see Emily Blunt. What was I watching the other day? Again, I can't remember what I was watching with her. I can't remember what it was. Oh, Looper. I was watching some scenes of Looper, and her chemistry with the kid, her chemistry with Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I mean, she's just so good. She is really an excellent actress. She's so good, and even in bad movies, she's good. John Castle, what's up, John? Good to see you, brother. He goes, hey, brother, I want your thoughts on Dave Batista being announced as a new Kratos in the God of War TV show. Thanks for tonight's live show. Always love your live videos. Be safe and much love. Thank you, John. Appreciate you, bro. Thank you very much for the very, very kind super chat. You and Tim Sim coming through tonight. I mean, it means the world to me for you guys to send these massive amounts. And for everybody who's sending what you can, like Reggie sending what you can, means a lot as well, bro. Like, thank you so much. But you talk about this, so let's bring that up. So let's cut to this. I was going to bring this up a little bit later on in the show, but I think I have. Here we go. So let's bring this up. And again, let me put myself up here, and let me take down that graphic as well for now, so we can look at this. Where is it? There it is. Okay, so let's make it bigger. Zoom in. Okay, one more. Dave Batista officially set as Kratos in God of War TV series. The Dune and Guardians of the Galaxy takes over the role from Ryan Hurst, who was injured on set in June. Although if you watch Ryan's IG video, was he injured? Was he not injured? Dave Batista is officially taking up the mantle of the God of War. Variety has learned that the actor is now set to lead the Amazon Prime Video TV series based on the video game franchise in the role of Kratos. It was originally reported earlier this month that Batista was in talks to play the role after Ryan Hurst, who was announced as Kratos in January of 2026, suffered a torn bicep on set that required surgery and would have delayed restarting production into 2027. It was announced shortly thereafter that Amazon and Sony, which was co-producing, were recasting the part. They've given the show a 2-season order with 2 seasons set to shoot back-to-back. Batista is now locked in as Kratos. Production expected to resume in the coming weeks. All scenes featuring Hurst will now have to be reshot. So Kratos is known for his incredibly muscular physique in the games, and Batista's been in remarkable shape throughout his career. Thus, he does not need months of prep time to prepare for the role. The series will pick up the story of the most recent God of War games in which Kratos, I don't know how you say it, must raise his 10-year-old son Atreus while battling gods of the Norse pantheon. Norse, I can say. So father and son, I hear are they recasting Atreus as well? Callum Vinson remains attached to play Kratos' son. Additional cast members include Max Parker, Olafur Dari Olafsson. Hope I got that right. Mandy Patinkin is Odin, of course. Oh my God, he's going to chew up the scenery there. Alistair Duncan, Danny Woodburn, Jeff Golka, and Ed Skrein as Baldur, of course. Ronald D. Moore's the writer, EP. So listen, here's what I'll tell you. I think this is a great thing for Batista. I'm a little concerned because Dave was saying how he was struggling with keeping the muscles on his body and keep being in a certain shape. And that was a lot for him. So I would be surprised I think he's just going to have to put things together for himself. And I think he's going to have to work hard to get into that shape. And I don't know if he can get into that shape. So we'll see. Different son for the actor for second season because of a time jump. Oh, okay. Because I'd heard he'd been recast. So yeah, so to me, when I look at this thing, I think it's a great move for Batista, but I think it's going to, getting older is hard to maintain that shape. Hugh Jackman talks about it all the time. To get in Wolverine shape is harder and harder every time. And it has to start prepping earlier and earlier in the time frame to be ready to shoot. So Dave must be in some good shape, but he's going to have to put on a little more muscle. Because you've seen him recently, he's really trimmed down. Like him and The Rock have really kind of trimmed down. I don't know if they're on the Ozempic or they're doing the, calorie deficit diet or whatever. But they've dropped pounds. So putting that muscle back on is not going to be easy. So we will see. Wasn't he in shape for but Highlander? I think Highlander has stopped shooting. So I don't know how that works. Where he's at. So clearly they're paying him enough to put the muscle back on in a bigger size. Because he has said this recently that it was getting harder and harder for him to be in Drax shape. And so he was very happy when he walked away from the role because it took a lot out of him to stay in that shape with a shirt off, so. And remember, he's been doing that for a long time, since the WWE days. So, he's been doing it for a bit. So, yes, I love it. John, I think it's amazing that he's going to be a part of it. And I hope now I'm going to see it. I wasn't going to see it before because, I'm not sure if I'm 100% on board. But now I am going to see it because I love Dave and I always support Dave. Paul says, I always support but rarely agree with you. That's the fun of it. Thank you, Paul. I know there are people who hate watch my stuff. Now, there are people who legitimately hate watch my stuff and they clip stuff out. I get people who send me. Listen, I don't watch anybody else's content because I'm so busy working on my own shit or watching stuff or hanging out with my lady outlaw and living a life. So I rarely get to see anybody else's stuff. So, but I hear from people all the time that they clip out some of my stuff or get upset about it and post about it. And I say, okay, sure, fine, whatever. But I know there are people who actually watch or hate watch my stuff or watch to disagree with me so they can throw things at the radio or at the TV, which has been from the beginning. Like in Top 10, people all the time used to tell us that the reason they enjoyed watching the show the most was because, or listening to the show, is so they could yell at us in their cars when they're driving, listening to us, or on their iPad or on their however they're listening to us, taking a walk with their dogs or hiking or even working out. And one guy used to listen to us on the Top 10 in his bathroom, and he would splash around in the bath. He would sit and take 2-hour baths and listen to our show and splash around in anger at some of the things we said. So yeah. Cartoon Force says, what films you think will be the big surprise this fall? All right, let's take a look real quick. I know we got to get back to the Paramount WB thing. That's what we're going to talk about. Oh, actually, we've got one more Marvel thing, and then we'll get to the Paramount WB thing. I think Whale Fall is going to do well. Did you guys see that latest trailer? Goodness gracious, man. I think that film is going to surprise a lot of people and do really well. I think The Uprising is going to bomb. I think Resident Evil is going to do really well as well. I think Primetime is going to be phenomenal. Let's see. Anything else that might... I think Verity is not going to be good, but I think it's going to be divisive. Digger is going to be divisive. They're starting to show some screenings of Digger now for certain critics. I don't live in LA, or else I'll be knocking on that door. I think The Social Reckoning might bomb, to be honest with you. I'm a little nervous about that movie because A, it's not Fincher. B, I also feel like people hate Zuckerberg and they don't want to watch a film that's going to like maybe redeem him in some way or show his point of view. And I don't know that Jeremy Allen White is a movie star, to be honest with you. I think he might be tumbling back down to TV. We'll see. And what's her face? Mikey Madison. I mean, remember, she was TV, then had this Anora film, but it doesn't necessarily mean that Mikey's meant for film to get people in the doors as well. So we'll see on that level. Anything else? Clayface should do well. Wildwood, I think. Have you seen that new trailer? Wildwood looks just jaw-droppingly gorgeous. I think that could be a big surprise. Clara and the Sun is probably going to tank like crazy. I don't think people have the taste for Taika Waititi anymore. The Cat in the Hat might surprise. I think that might surprise. Godzilla Minus Zero, I think, will do way better than the first Godzilla film did. And I Play Rocky, I think, is going to be a massive hit. I do. I don't think it's going to be like 500 million, but I think it's going to be a massive hit compared to its production budget. And don't be surprised if The Adventures of Cliff Booth isn't as good as you think it's going to be. Don't be surprised if it doesn't quite live up to the first one. So that's what I'll say to you. So that's my answer to your question there, Cartoon. Wayne, thank you, Wayne. Happy Thursday, John. You rock. You rock, Wayne. I always love hearing from you, bro. I'm not a huge Marvel fan, but I loved Wonder Man. I'm not into conspiracies, but the fact that Wonder Man and Blade are canceled and Ryan Gosling's Ghost Rider is greenlit quickly is suspicious. Now, to be fair, Wonder Man was a TV show, so comparing it to Ghost Rider seems a bit weird. Blade, I agree with you. Blade is a little suspicious what went on there, but I think what happened here, and they're not going to say it out loud, maybe years later, maybe there'll be a second version of that MCU book that's down there. But I think Disney got cold feet. I've said this before on other shows. I think Yahya Abdul Mateen wanted to do a period piece about what it's like to be a black superhero, highlighting slavery, highlighting racism, the Ku Klux Klan. And I think Disney initially was on board because they were like, yes, diversity, inclusion, Black Lives Matter, I'm on board. And then the political climate changed as they were trying to put it together. I think they got cold feet. I mean, just looking at Captain America 4, which they almost turned it around and made it about the red-skinned character instead of the black-skinned character, if you know what I mean with Red Hulk. And look at how they fumbled Falcon and Winter Soldier, which really I think wasn't that great of a series when it presented some really interesting things they could have explored. Imagine if they had done an Andor version of Falcon and Winter Soldier, we'd still be talking about how amazing that show is, you know? And I think that's what's so good about Lanterns. They're not shying away from the subtext of a black man learning from a white man and what you have to do as a black man in order to be accepted in the white world, you know, those kinds of things. And so I like that they're, and then the idea of immigration, the idea of people born on Earth versus aliens, you know, what that is supposed to symbolize, like the gutsiness of that, you know, and I appreciate that. But Marvel doesn't have those guts. Marvel, I think, sometimes are a bunch of wussies when it comes to social commentary. They don't stand behind their shit the way they should. You know, they mealy mouth it. They just dip their toe in it. Like, we're doing it's that white liberal shit that's like, I'm gonna show you how great I am and how progressive I am. But what about these extra levels? No. Let's not. I'm uncomfortable. You're going too far. That's what Disney like. Whereas I appreciate that DC goes knee deep in it, like fucking the Penguin, right? And now Lanterns. Like, I love that. Let's get that kind of stuff for these Disney shows. Not every show, but if you got a black lead, let's go. That's why Wonder Man was great. You saw a black family, you saw what he was navigating, but it was still a universal story about wanting to get the thing that you want to get and blowing it at the last minute because of your own stuff, you know? And so I think it's important. But the Ghost Rider thing, yeah, that's safe. That's why they greenlit it. But look what they're doing. It's Sean Levy and Ryan Gosling. It's going to be a quip fest the whole time. It's not going to be like the Ghost Rider people really want to see. So that's why they greenlit it. It's safe and it's white. And they greenlit it. People are going to love it, and it's going to make a lot of money. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's literally nothing wrong with that. But when you compare it to what they could have created in Blade, if you had a gutsier approach by a company, I think it would have been fascinating to see what they create. So Dennis says, to the person who asked about Blackest Night, I definitely recommend reading the whole Jeff Johns run. Rebirth, Sinestro War, Secret Origin are all amazing. Try DC Infinite. Yeah, Dennis is not wrong. I have Rebirth. I have the big oversized one, which I read every once in a while. I think is great. So yeah, absolutely. Those are ones to read for sure. So take a look at those. But don't feel pressured like you can't start Blackest Night because you'll have to do those. Just start Blackest Night and then, work your way back to the other ones. Good suggestions, Dennis. Thank you. John Lawless is just saying hello. Always like your content, even though I don't always agree. Another one. Thank you. Well, why would you want to watch someone who just agrees with you all the time? You might as well just talk to yourself. So I like to challenge you. And maybe I'm not always right, but I like to push and challenge and explore and poke and prod and ask questions. I enjoy that. John says, Eagles starting back up. Cry, Eagles, cry. Onward to defeat. This is the chant I dare say to my fanatical wife now. Yeah, we'll see. A whole new system they got to put in place there for the Eagles for sure. All right, thank you, John. Appreciate you, bro. And let's see. Let's hit where is it? The super chat, Streamlabs here, real quick. Fred. Hey, Truther, thanks for doing this impromptu live stream. I know box office doesn't determine whether a movie is good or not. Certainly doesn't. But it's hard for me to take someone serious when they're telling me a movie isn't good when I know it's crossed $1 billion. Now, does that include the Transformers movies, Fred? I mean, 2 of them crossed $1 billion. So are they good? Is a movie good if it crosses $1 billion? Because there are quite a few Jurassic World movies or Jurassic Park movies that cross $1 billion. I think 2 or 3 of them that I am not. I think those are terrible movies. So I think you can still say $1 billion movie is not good. It doesn't mean you don't have to reckon with it, because someone was telling me that the other day. They were saying that Spider-Man Brand New Day is not a good movie. It doesn't matter if it made $2 billion. But I think if a movie makes $2 to $3 billion, you kind of have to say that it is good because a majority of people went back to see it over and over and over again because they enjoyed it. So Fred also says, there's been only like 60 plus movies that have hit that mark. So it's a great accomplishment when it happens. That's why I say that movie wasn't for me if I don't like it instead of it wasn't good. I hope we get more before Doomsday and Dune 3. No, we're not going to get another $1 billion film until Doomsday and Dune 3. I think both of them are going to make $1 billion, as I've said before, because I think both of them are going to be good. So yeah, I don't think anything else is going to make $1 billion. Fred also says, there's only been like, he already said that again. Thank you, Fred. I appreciate you, bro. And then Paul Hitchcock, sure, it's been asked and answered by you multiple times, but I missed it. Hal Jordan, dead or alive? Given the showrunners and some plants in the episode 1, I think it's a red herring and Hal pops back up at the end. Well, I mean, we saw the coming soon trailer for the rest of the episodes. Hal's all over that shit. So is he going to be alive by the end of the show? I do think he's going to be alive, but I don't think he's going to be Hal Jordan. And I don't think he's going to be Green Lantern. I think and the fact that Aaron Pierre is appearing in Man of Tomorrow, that's their Green Lantern. That's who James Gunn wants to go with. So it's not going to be Hal joining up with Superman to be part of the Justice League. That is not going to happen. And anyone thinking that's going to happen, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. It's very clear. That's why he's in Man of Tomorrow, because that's where James Gunn wants to go. I've got to get some more fan on me. As far as I think Hal Jordan becomes Spectre or becomes Parallax. I think that's what you see by the end of the show, or at some point during the show, maybe even. So I think that's what you see there. And so his consciousness has left his body because it is in the form of something else, the entity of something else. I think Spectre is very possible, which would be super fucking out there, to be honest with you. But yes, I think it's a red herring. I don't think he's dead. I don't think he's dead. That's my honest opinion. John Lawless thought I was not going to like Lanterns because of the trailers, but holy fuck, can't wait till next week. I agree. And I've been sitting with it for so long this week that today I decided that I'm going to email Warner Brothers and ask them if they'll send me the next 3 episodes. And remember, I am going live on Sunday nights right after the show is done to watch it. So just letting you guys know, I will be going live on my channel probably around 7:30. That's about when I go live last week to talk about it. Maybe 8 o'clock if I need to research some more stuff, but probably 7:30. Go live for like an hour and a half to talk about the show with you guys. So, all right. Is that enough? I think is that everybody that we've got? Oh, sorry. CC Black, no more MCU Disney Plus shows, focus on movies. Well, that's not going to happen. Clearly, as Puck reported, they are working on some Disney Plus shows, but not what we've had before. Probably more limited series type approach. KJ, regarding Hallie, I also felt that Angela was the stronger actress and that Hallie was the biggest star out of default in the 90s. Great point, Rocha. Yes, absolutely, bro. Absolutely. Thank you, KJ. I'm glad we could find some common ground on that for sure. All right, let's move to one last thing with Marvel, and then we'll get into the Paramount WB stuff. Where is it? So this is very interesting. For those of you, we know Doomsday is on the way, right? Oh, no, wait, that's the wrong one. Sorry, let's get out of that one. Where is the one that I was going to look at here? Not everything's in order, y'all. Sometimes it's a situation where I've got to remember where I put it. Where is it? All right, give me a second. I don't know why I don't have it up. Give me a second. I'm going to pull it up here because I have it in my notes. And then I'm going to move it over into the Google Chrome. This is what happens when you're the only one running your stuff, y'all. Thank you for the patience. I promise it will be momentary. Okay, here we go. So we have Doomsday coming up. You all know this. I know this. And it's going to be here before we know it. I mean, literally, it's just 4 months away, right? So Marvel issued a watch list that you need to watch to get ready for Doomsday. And this has caused a lot of fingers to hit their keyboards and a lot of tongues to start wagging. And Disney Plus was recently updated with a section titled Countdown to Avengers Doomsday, which includes 150, which includes every film and series that will be relevant to the upcoming culmination of the multiverse saga. This was an excellent idea, especially for those who have not kept up with the past few years of Marvel content. However, the specific choices for this watch list reveal a weakness of the modern MCU. Here is the list. I think they have the list. Where's the list? Don't they have the list? Where is the list? Oh, wow. Did they not put the list in the article? That doesn't make sense. Where is it? Oh, that's really odd. Okay, I thought they'd put, okay, here it is. So wait, here are they're missing from this list. All right. Phases 4 through 6. Black Widow is missing. Why would you do that? That's the introduction of Yelena Belova. I'm not sure why you would keep that out. The Eternals is missing. That makes sense. So clearly they're not going to touch on anything Eternals. Thor Love and Thunder is really curious. Why wouldn't that be in the list? Because his daughter is in the trailer. So yes, Love and Thunder, not a great film, but you're introducing the characters. So I don't know why you wouldn't put that in there. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, that's understandable because you were going to go to Kang. You're not going to Kang anymore. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, that was pretty much an insular thing. Although I do have a feeling we're going to see some of the Guardians at some point in Doomsday. I just have, or Secret Wars. I just have a feeling. The Marvels is the curious one because that end scene with Monica Rambeau and Beast and Maria Rambeau, who's alive in that universe, that seems to be literally a connection to Doomsday. So it's really odd that they did not include that. And look, I get it. The movie's not great. A lot of people maybe they don't want people to watch bad movies and put a bad taste in their mouths. And look, a majority of these are not like Eternals, Love and Thunder, Quantumania, the Marvels. These are considered not good films from a lot of people, although there are defenders of each of those films. But I understand that. But like leaving out the Marvels, that final thing, like I think that's a massive mistake. And then all the TV shows except Loki were excluded, as were the 3 special presentations. So that's about 2/3 of the multiverse saga that will apparently be irrelevant to Doomsday. You know, and who's writing this? Sterling Ulrich.
The summer sales event with the Ford crew.
Where you been, Hank?
Do whatever it takes.
Field research. Check this out.
Looks like America is loving Ford.
Start this so we can move past it. Jesus Christ. Ads. A few of these absences are completely understandable. Quantumania, for example, was building towards a Scrap Kane the Conqueror storyline. She-Hulk Attorney at Law was simply meant to be a fun sitcom. But other projects are missing. The trailers have made clear that Thor and his daughter, right, exactly. That's what I said. It also includes several films from before the multiverse saga, such as Captain America: First Avenger, every Avengers film except Avengers: Age of Ultron. That is unsurprising because Doomsday has been described as a direct sequel to Avengers Endgame, yet it further contributes to the sense that very little after Endgame has actually mattered to the overarching story of the MCU. It is possible that Disney has left out a few relevant projects to avoid Doomsday spoilers, but the point stands. And then it goes on to talk about how it kind of ran out of momentum and all of that. So yeah, it's a fascinating thing to do it that way. It doesn't speak to a lot of confidence or feeling good about their lineup, but yeah, it's a curious thing. Let me see if I can find the list because I'm really surprised they didn't put the list in here. Let's see. Avengers Doomsday list. Some of you may not be aware of what it is. So now I will share this again here. So here is the list. Disney's pre-Doomsday watch list. X-Men 2000, because duh, they're going to be a big part of it. Oh, actually, you know what? Let's do it this way and then take myself down. Take the graphic. Okay, so I'm still in the way, ain't I? There we go. Okay, so I'll just pull it down. There it is. Okay. Yeah, X-Men 2000, X-Men United, X2, right, of course. X2 United. Captain America: First Avenger, The Avengers, Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame, Loki Season 1, and 2 probably, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, at least he made the cut, Spider-Man No Way Home, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, Deadpool and Wolverine, Captain America: Brave New World, Thunderbolts, and Fantastic Four: First Steps. That's the list. That is the pre-Doomsday watch list. So Yeah, no OG Doctor Strange, but the sequel to Doctor Strange. Deadpool and Wolverine. That means, you know, we saw that video that was played at D23 with Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds messing with each other about being in Doomsday. So you know they're going to show up, and then of course Ryan showed up in his Canadian tuxedo denim Deadpool outfit. Brave New World is interesting. I guess that's for Anthony Mackie. Although I would have suggested Falcon and Winter Soldier over Brave New World. But does Brave New World mean we're getting the Red Hulk back? Is Harrison Ford going to be a part of this? Are we getting Giancarlo back? Are we getting possibly the leader back? And are we getting anyone else back? Man, maybe the Sebastian Stan interaction is why that's in there. I don't know. Thunderbolts makes sense. Fantastic Four, of course, because of Doom. Wakanda Forever with Shuri and Namor for sure. So yeah, so interesting about what's in and what's out. But I think it also speaks to how little they respect the content they made throughout the multiverse saga. So Brian says, looks more like a marketing strategy to me. Yeah, probably. So yeah. I think what WV Grad said is interesting. How many hours of content are they asking people to watch for homework? That's fair, because it can feel like homework because there's so much leading up to it. So you don't want them to watch necessarily the bad stuff. Although I would say Multiverse of Madness is a pretty terrible movie in my opinion, but it did make almost $1 billion. So you could argue people do need to watch it. So, you know, there we go. So we'll see. Phil, what's up, Phil? Woo! Huge love from Lone London Town. Sorry, I'm in my warm weather preseason training camp in Cyprus. Nice, Phil. Cyprus. The Europeans, they know how to do it, everybody. They know how to do it. Everything is a hop, skip, and jump away. Okay, so let's get into the Paramount WB. Well, actually, let's get into one more thing. This is a fascinating story that I came up across with Puck. Actually, I'm going to take a quick break because I've got to use the restroom. So what can I put up here for you guys to look at while I go use the restroom? You know what? Let's here we go. This is perfect. There you go. I'll be right back. Okay. Thank you all very much for putting up with that. I appreciate you. All right. So let's get into this story because I think this is a fascinating story. This was in Puck, right? I subscribe to Puck, but this is about spoilers. The war on spoilers goes nuclear. When Warner Brothers recently submitted takedown notices against independent pop culture site Cosmic Book News over an alleged Green Lantern leak, it highlighted the legal lengths studios will go to quash unsanctioned pre-premiere discussion of their hottest properties. It's still unclear if the law is exactly on the IP owner's side, but the legal process certainly is. So let's take a look at, let's read this article. Let me take, again, my graphic down here and make this one, again, and make this one a little bit bigger. So there we go. Zoom in. Okay. This past Sunday, HBO premiered Lanterns, a highly anticipated DC series, blah, 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 blah. Premiere episode's final moments delivered a shocking fate for one of the show's central characters. I won't spoil it, but Cosmic Book News, an independent pop culture news site, had been reading the tea leaves for months, studying the casting choices, promotional footage, and clues about the show's timeline. By March, editor Matt McGloin was predicting the ending outright. Then on July 10th, 2 weeks before Comic-Con, an anonymous Reddit post purported to reveal the plot twist. The rumor quickly spread to X, where Warner Brothers Discovery's copyright machinery whirred into action, and HBO Max social strategist, I didn't even know that existed, submitted a takedown notice covering 6 posts from 5 accounts, including Cosmic Book News, describing the purported infringement as, quote, people discussing the spoilers of the first episode of Lanterns. A separate WBD content protection employee followed with another notice, while MarkScan, one of the company's outside vendors, struck a 67-second Cosmic Book News video on YouTube. Facebook removed the same video after receiving a third-party copyright complaint, though its notice curiously failed to identify the complainant. McGloin filed counter notices, but his X account was temporarily locked, and Meta later barred him from managing Cosmic Book News's 666,000, that's a curious number, follower Facebook page for 30 days, a sanction that ran through Comic-Con. The timing was particularly painful for an outlet credentialed to cover Warner Brothers' Hall H presentation and whose social accounts, McGloin has said, generated as many as 40 million views a month. The takedowns cut me off from a large portion of my audience during the biggest week of the year, affected my ability to report on Comic-Con, Lanterns, and all related news, and hurt my bottom line, he said. Copyright law incentivizes authors by protecting the original expression in their work. What it generally doesn't protect is someone else simply describing that work, including what happens in it. Given this, I began to investigate. After digging into the notices, I learned that this wasn't simply collateral damage from an automated system sweeping up an improperly used still or some illicit footage. WBD was indeed targeting advanced discussion of the plot. This is Eric Gardner who wrote this. The studio declined to comment, but a source familiar with its thinking told me that several factors are considered before acting in such cases, including whether the film or TV show has yet to come out. There is a legitimate copyright argument that an unusually detailed reconstruction of an unreleased work can cross the line by serving as some kind of substitute. This happens on YouTube all the time, by the way. Like, I get notices all the time when I do trailer reactions, because and some people go like, why do you talk over the trailer? I have to, motherfucker, because if I don't, you can get your video absolutely taken down, because you have to show that you're altering the trailer in some way. And by that, I mean, if you talk over it, that's not what you can get on the official website of WB YouTube channel, where you watch the trailer uninterrupted, right? By us talking over it or reacting to it or putting ourselves on camera reacting to the trailer, you are affecting the natural rollout of the trailer. That's important to avoid copyright infringement. So some people who don't run YouTube channels have no idea that that's important to do. So yes, sometimes we're reacting to things and we're like, oh my God, oh. Sometimes it's because we have to put something there verbally in order to make the trailer altered in some way. You're not altering the content of the trailer or the construction of the trailer, but a person watching the trailer for the first time is seeing your reaction, which affects their overall watching of the trailer. So you're not showing the trailer in its original form. So you have to do that in order to avoid any kind of copyright infringement. But anyway, you see here, but what got caught in Warner's dragnet here was something considerably thinner. People were reporting and discussing a rumor about what happens in the premiere. Those details may not be hard news to you and me, but it is to the audience from McGloin's website. In any case, WBD has no intention of taking this to court. It already got what it wanted with the takedowns, keeping the plot reveal momentarily obscured, and the show's premiere has now come and gone. As for McGloin, he tells me that he is weighing his legal options. Spoilers may seem like small stakes, but as AI deepfakes proliferate, Congress is considering new legislation that would give rights holders a copyright-style notice and takedown mechanism for unauthorized digital replicas. But before handing over that power, lawmakers ought to be confident that the lever won't be repurposed as a censorship tool. There is reason to be wary. Around the world, entertainment companies are already stretching legal systems built to fight piracy and into tools for managing the audience's first encounter with a project. Producers of the several Telugu films secured injunctions against negative and allegedly malicious online reviews, prompting Book My Show to disable ratings for some titles. One YouTube critic accused AIPlex, an anti-piracy and reputation management firm, of invoking the orders against his review. In Japan, Toho and Kadokawa helped pursue a criminal copyright prosecution against a website operator who published monetized, extraordinarily detailed plot recaps of Godzilla -1 and Overlord 3. A Tokyo court gave him a suspended 18-month prison sentence and a $1 million fine. I don't know what is it yen? I guess that's 1 million yen fine. Those recaps were far more comprehensive than the Lanterns rumor, but the case nevertheless illustrates how piracy enforcement is reaching beyond illicit copies and into words about a work. Back in the US, this isn't Warner's first run with allegations that its copyright enforcement crossed over into review management. As I reported in June, that's Eric Gardner, YouTuber Andrew Sosa claims in an ongoing lawsuit that the studio used the DMCA to squelch his negative review of the Batman. In May, a federal judge allowed his misrepresentation claim to proceed, finding that discovery was needed into Warner's review procedures, what it told YouTube, and whether it acted in good faith. Before submitting a DMCA takedown notice, a copyright holder is supposed to consider fair use and attest to a good faith belief that the targeted material is unauthorized. The famous case involving a toddler dancing to Prince's Let's Go Crazy cemented that obligation. But good faith is a subjective standard, and Warner's spoiler theory isn't entirely frivolous. This is interesting. Harper and Row versus Nation Enterprise, the Supreme Court case involving Gerald Ford's unpublished memoir, Gerald Ford being the former president after Nixon, and Twin Peak Productions versus Publications Inter, a 90s case concerning exceptionally detailed episode synopses of David Lynch's mystery series. Both supply ammunition for the proposition that a sufficiently expressive retelling can infringe copyright. That's partly why WBD has argued in the Sosa case that, quote, the belief that spoilers violate copyright protections, even if mistaken, defeats any showing of a knowing misrepresentation. Still, merely clicking a box marked good faith doesn't make it so. Rejecting Warner's bid to dismiss Sosa's claim, U.S. District Court Judge William Orrick concluded that the speed of the removal, the studio's subsequent withdrawal of the takedown, and the apparent absence of movie footage plausibly supported an inference of bad faith. Notably, Orrick ruled just weeks before Warner's issued its Lanterns takedowns, and shortly before another judge delivered a noteworthy fair use ruling in 10 Entertainment versus Alexandra Marwa Saber. In that case, Judge Wesley Hugh held that the nearly 4-hour Twitch reaction stream incorporating Ethan Klein's entire 102-minute content nuke documentary was fair use as a matter of law on the pleadings. The whole film was shown, yet the surrounding commentary was, as I was saying, the surrounding commentary was sufficiently transformative. Against that backdrop, invoking copyright against a brief face-to-camera discussion of a rumored plot point looks considerably more adventurous. Warner's is playing with fire here. Perhaps it likes its odds. Section 512F of the DMCA was designed to hold rights holders liable for knowingly false takedown notices, yet it had produced remarkably few successful cases. The subjective good faith standard is forgiving. Damages can be elusive, and litigation takes years. The studio, meanwhile, gets its remedy almost instantly. By the time a counter notice has run its course and account has been restored, the dispute has been sorted out, and the premiere or Comic-Con or the entire leak cycle has come and gone. That is the asymmetry at the heart of the Lanterns affair. Warner Brothers has no intention of filing suit because it has need to. The temporary interruption was the point. Perhaps Sosa's case will finally impose some consequences, and maybe the owner of Cosmic Book News will sue to adjust the injury to his business. Until then, Warner's can keep acting as a self-appointed guardian of the audience's first encounter while discovering, as comic book stories so often teach, that the line between hero and villain comes down to how power is used. So it's a fascinating story for a number of reasons. I mean, there's only so far you can go with these things before a studio gets involved, and this is a fascinating thing. Look, I'm no fan of Matt McGloin or Cosmic Book News. I think they are a right-wing, anti-woke, anti-DEI place. And I think they even I think they used my Star Wars tweet for an article, the one I posted where I was saying that we need to have people of color be a part of these Andor conversations on a lot of these white-led Star Wars review shows. Yes, I probably didn't word that tweet so well, which is why I took it down. So I get why people were upset about it, but I wasn't in any way saying white people couldn't talk about Star Wars, which is how it was read. But anyway, but he still has a right to I still believe in freedom of speech. I believe that he has a right to post the things. And if he was doing the analysis and all this kind of stuff, and he did not have access, this is an important thing. If he did not have access to the screeners and was just putting everything together and then came to the conclusion that he thought what happened to Hal happened to Hal at the end of Lanterns, I think it's very weird to take that down. I think that is censorship, if not censorship adjacent at least. because you are allowed to analyze what you think is going to happen. Certainly, I think we talked on the hot mic that we sensed what was going to happen to Hal, or even on, I think on the Geek Buddies, we talked about what we thought was going to happen to Hal, And we'll see what the end result is of that by the time the 8th episode rolls around. But to me, this is a shocking thing to see them do it. But man, when you're messing with corporations and their bottom line, I'm not surprised that they would flex their muscle and hit you where it hurts, which is to make you go down during Comic-Con, where you make your most money covering superhero stuff and whatever. So I'm not necessarily surprised that Warner Brothers took that route. I'm sure these people looked at this thing and go, let's hit him where it hurts. And they timed their takedown notice to be 30 days through Comic-Con cycle, so his bottom line would be affected. Now, maybe Matt goes, you know what? I take the hits. I get it. I make a lot of money. It's not a big deal, right? Because if you have 600,000 followers, you're doing fine. You're doing fucking fine financially, okay? I'm doing okay, and I don't get those numbers, and I don't have those kind of following. So I can only imagine how much more money you're making. Now, if you've got a bunch of houses, I get that you might be a little, strapped for cash. But if you live in a pretty regular life and you have 600,000 followers and how many millions of minutes of watch on your stuff, you're doing fine financially. So he may just take the hit and be like, hey, I flew too close to the sun. My wings got burnt. I'll learn that for next time. Or he may push back on Warner Brothers, make this a cause celeb and do a bunch of videos and go the legal route. But it's going to cost him a lot of money to take on WB. I mean, that's a fucking strong corporation with a team of lawyers that has no problem arguing. So, but it is a situation where you have to kind of figure out, like, where is the line? And I think some of these right-wing websites, anti-woke, anti-DEI websites, like to fuck with the studios, like to mess with their content, like to, because was Matt's approach to this, let me expose what happens here because of what happens to the white guy in favor of the Black Green Lantern. Was this an anti-DEI approach from his mind, or an anti-woke approach from his mind? And so he wanted to get his followers riled up. I don't know. Now, I don't know what the approach was there in terms, because I didn't look at it or read it. But looking at the situation, that could have possibly been an intention to come to this conclusion, to put that out there for the most amount of traction, And so the studio didn't like that, didn't want their stuff revealed, and then they put the takedown notice. So, you play with fire, you might get burnt sometimes. Just how it goes. So we'll see if Matt pushes back. But I think this is a sign for a lot of people who run these websites, who run these YouTube channels, like, corporations are watching, especially if you're big. When you get big, obviously there's more attention on you, there's more spotlight on you. Corporations are going to take you down. If this was like a 10,000 YouTube channel with 10,000 followers or 5,000 followers, I don't think they'd have taken it down. But because it's Matt, who's has a big following, I think they did this to send a message to people who are out there. And again, I think this is a form of censorship. If he didn't get the episodes ahead of time and he was putting everything together and it came to that conclusion, I think he has a right to post his conclusion, right? But if he got the episodes ahead of time and he's faking that he came to this conclusion, then I think Warner Brothers has a little more standing to do what they did, because they're like, you knew what happened in the show. This isn't you coming to the conclusion on your own. You came to this conclusion because we gave you the episodes, and now you're trying to play like you came to this conclusion on your own, but you watched the episodes and you know what happens, so you're lying. I mean, I think that gives a little more credibility to what Warner Brothers did, if that was the case. So I don't know what the case is, but like looking at it from all the points of views, that's what I look at. So, anyway, yeah. All right. So 250 of you is still hanging out with me. Thank you so much. Karen says the Real Rejects got a lot of strikes on them. Yeah, well, I mean, they're 1 million subscribers. You're going to get the attention of the studios. I mean, nothing is, I'm always fascinated by people who just think, there's no other side of the coin. There's just my success. No, there's always another side of the coin. There's always, once you get a lot of attention, there's always criticism that comes with that attention, or you get the attention of the studios or the copyright owners, or people, there are copyright people who go into these big sites and they launch these copyright strikes or copyright claims. And they are not involved with the production of any of this stuff at all. But there are professional companies that do that to try to take money away from YouTubers. And that always sucks. I've seen Greg deal with that shit, which is supremely frustrating. But, you know, when you have 1 million subscribers and you're out there all the time, you're going to get some people who are trying to take you down, or studios that are going to post copyright notices or claims on it. And that's just the game, you know? So this was a situation there. All right, let's move on to some Paramount WB shit. Keep sending in your Streamlabs and Super Chats. I will answer them after we get into this stuff. And we are running. Oh God, I've been on for an hour and 40 minutes already. I can't believe that. Jesus Christ. All right, so let's get into this stuff. The Wrap wrote a pretty extensive report here. Actually, I'm going to skip the Wraps one. There's another one that is, when is it? Where is it? Is this it? I think this might be it. Yeah, this is it. All right. So a report was issued, and this is yesterday from Dominic Patton. A report was issued about the Paramount WB merger. And the report basically broke down what the merger is going to cost Paramount, what's going to cost California and LA, basically. So the LA County Department of Economic Opportunity today, that was yesterday, built on its already ominous June 18th report to the Board of Supervisors on a Paramount WB merger with even harsher data. If the $82 billion, okay. All right, hold on. Let me put myself back in the corner, take this down again. Let's see here. Okay, so yes, if the 82, let me make this a little closer to me. If the $82 billion debt carrying Parabros was to be real, David Ellison's dream will be a nightmare for Paramount and WBD staff. The quote, assessing the effects of the proposed Paramount Skydance acquisition of Warner Bros. Discovery on LA County economy and workforce, entitled dense document predicts. Let me read that again. If the $82 billion debt carrying Parabros was to be real, David Ellison's dream will be a nightmare for Paramount and WBD staff. The quote, assessing the effects of the proposed Paramount Skydance acquisition of Warner Bros. Discovery on the LA County economy and workforce, entitled dense document predicts. There will be a quote, potential loss of 15,567 corporate roles that overlap across both companies, with 6,099 shared and 2,495 jobs specifically in LA County, says yesterday's report. Getting very specific in the realm of some of the worst fears of both critics and boasters of the merger, the DEO document goes on to cite, if the merger goes through, about 4,500 film and TV jobs in LA County could be lost over the 3-year period when the companies combine operations. In total, 10,360 job years could be at risk, including 2,661 indirect jobs at small businesses that support production, such as prop houses, printers, transportation companies, and other vendors. 3,204 induced jobs that exist because film and TV workers spend money in the local economy, including restaurants, retailers, and service providers. The economic impact of losing these jobs is significant. At stake, $1.26 billion in wages, $2.78 billion in economic value, $4.06 billion in total business output, $547 million in tax revenue, including $78.6 million in local taxes, most of which, 63%, comes from property taxes. That is a massive amount of job loss and income loss to LA County and to California in general. So I think this is what David Ellison was afraid of. I think David Ellison's PR campaign with, in my opinion, supposedly or probably paid off writers at these websites that they are funneling information to at these Penske sites to write this stuff. Now, to be fair, the deadline is Penske site. So, but some of these websites have been writing these supposedly glowing support for the Paramount WB merger. You know, Jeff doesn't like specifics. I couldn't go this deep into the conversation with Jeff on the hot mic because Jeff is he's made up his mind. The merger should go through. But I think it's important to look at this stuff. I think it's important to know the numbers and the details because you've got the DGA and Yahtzee pushing for a settlement. Karen Bass today completely did a 180, and now she's like, I need them to come together and settle. And so some people are turning on this thing. Cinema United, which had been against this as recently as last week, now joined Regal and AMC to be in support of the merger. I really could care less what the CEOs of these theater chains believe because to them, all they care about is getting movies in the theater. They're about the bottom line. They don't give a fuck about the social impact. They don't care about Trump getting his hands on CNN and manipulating and turning it into yet another right-wing news network because God knows we don't have enough of fucking those. And then also the job loss and the economy loss because that doesn't affect them. Their movies are still going to be in the theater, so people are going to go see these movies. That's all they fucking care about. And I think that's unfortunate because there's a lot of creatives that are going to be affected by this. A lot of people whose jobs rely on these companies staying separate are going to be affected by this. And this idea that he's going to move to Austin or some shit. First of all, he's not going to fucking do that because that'd be the dumbest thing in the world. Quite a few people have come out already, as anonymous sources and said like they will quit. And if you think you're going to get people to come work for you for the shit wages that you're going to pay them in a low cost of living city, you're out of your fucking mind. If you think your output is going to be as close or as good quality wise, you're out of your fucking mind. So all that stuff is in the opposition of the merger happening, as evidence of the opposition of the merger happening. So look at all this. This is mind-blowing, the kind of numbers we're dealing with here when you look at this kind of stuff for the merger to go through. These estimates measure, with initial details from 2 months ago in mind, the report notes these estimates measure employment capacity at risk, not a forecast of layoffs. One job sustained for 1 year equals one job year, so the impact may be distributed across different workers, projects, and positions. The impact extends beyond direct film and television employment. An estimated 2,661 indirect job years are at risk among businesses that support production, including independent artists, agents, and promoters, sound recording, employment services, and equipment rental. A further 3,204 induced job years reflect reduced household spending across the county economy. The economic impact extends well beyond employment. The model losses correspond to approximately $1.26 billion in labor income, $2.79 billion in value added, and $4.06 billion in economic output over the modeled period. The fiscal impact extends across federal, state, and local government. The modeled losses correspond to approximately $547 million in tax revenue, as we said, including $78.6 million in local tax revenue. Impacts would emerge over time, not at closing. Evidence from 6 completed media mergers shows workforce actions unfolding over several years following a transaction, supporting continued monitoring of employment and production activity rather than a single point-in-time assessment. To put this into perspective, the direct jobs at risk account for nearly 9% of the 52,016 film and TV jobs California has already lost since 2022. And almost all those losses, 99.6% of the losses, occurred in LA County. So, and this is what a company spokesperson said, tried to spin this. Paramount company spokesperson tried to spin this and say, LA County's own economic report underscores what we have been saying all along. Our industry is in decline. Production is down and jobs are being lost and lost for good if we don't act. Our plan to invest $30 billion annually in production and release at least 30 films a year is how we regain that ground. More production that supports more jobs over time and ultimately a stronger, more durable entertainment industry for generations to come. But Rob Bonta countered this and said of the latest LA County report, as I've said repeatedly, the proposed unlawful Paramount Warner Brothers merger will lead to significant job loss and massive damage to the economy. Meanwhile, back in Oakland, as various exhibitors, guilds, and pundits opine on the pros and cons of one big pair of bros and Team Ellison leaks threats to Adios, California, and jump to a friendlier red jurisdiction. Today's 21-minute case management conference before Martinez Olgun had some other topics on the agenda too. And this is just a little bit of the extra stuff that we don't need to get into. So this is what you're looking at when you're looking at this merger. It is massive. It is going to cost a shit ton of money. People will lose jobs. A lot of the money will go to a number of places, not to California. And so this will be a real bad situation all around for the city and for LA County and for the state. And this is what we're talking, because they're saying, well, 30 films, look at our slate coming out next year. They did the analysis and looked at the background on those films. Only one of the films coming out from Paramount next year, when they're crowing about all the films they're putting out next year, only one of those films was made in LA. One out of all those films. And they just broke ground on a new studio space in England. Broke ground, not I guess opened, not broke ground in terms of starting construction, like opened. So what is to keep them from shooting films in England where they can get bigger tax breaks than staying in LA? This idea that they'll put $30 billion in the economy is utter bullshit, utter horseshit. I don't believe any of this at all. What they're saying is just anything to get people to approve this merger, because they want to, in essence, rape those companies for as much money as they can make. You see that happening in the White House now with the guy in charge, right? You see what he is doing to all of us here in the country and the money he's pocketing off these grifts and these corrupt actions. You think the Ellisons are going to be, no, we're going to do the right thing. We're going to be nice to everybody. We're going to make sure nobody gets fired. We're going to do the right thing. We're going to take it step by step. And they don't give a fuck. These are corporate raiders, man. And that's what they're going to do. So living in this fantasy land that they're going to put out 30 movies a year, and all of them, or a majority of them, are going to be shot in LA for the economy is nonsense. They're saying all of this stuff so they can get it approved. And then later, they're going to go back on all their promises, just like all these big billionaires do in every situation when they lie about everything from data centers to corporate takeovers to coming in to be friendly with the cities, to do business. They promise all this shit. And in the end, they don't follow regulations. They don't follow rules. They throw money at it. They have high-end and brutal lawyers who will do the most horrific things to people in order to make sure the company is protected. And the same thing will happen here. I mean, please don't buy this nonsense that David Ellison is going to be the savior of Hollywood. Bull fucking shit. It's all about pocketing as much money as possible from the productions they're making and screwing over LA. I mean, why would a red state friendly guy be like nice to LA? Bullshit. It's all about pocketing the money and fleecing the city, the county, and the state for as much as possible and laughing in their faces with their red state billionaire buddies sitting back having cigars with Trump. That's essentially what this is all lining up to be. Now, I know he's produced other films and all that. He has a track record and all that shit, but this is playing with the big boys. And I think he wants the status of having this massive studio. But I mean, look at what's going on with all of these billionaires taking over places and seeing what's happening. You know, the tariffs, like Karen put it in there, where I live in Vegas, it's dying here. Yes, absolutely. I was in Vegas for CinemaCon, driving around Vegas, and I was like, what the fuck? There is nobody here. I was able to walk the streets of Vegas without feeling like I'm in a cattle cart. Now, I loved it because I like space, but that isn't the Vegas I remember. And so, you know, you see it happening in a number of areas. And what, the debt hit 40 trillion just a few days ago, yesterday? 40 trillion. And they're all out here like Jan Brady. It's Biden, Biden, Biden. That's all they're saying for 2 years now. And it's like, bitch, own what you're doing. And so Ellison comes from that crop of people. And if you think he's going to be like good to the people working these movie studios and adhere to the 30 films a year, and do most of them in LA, you're crazy. It's not total lie, total utter lie, in my opinion. I don't think it's true at all. All right. So I've been going on and on about that. Let me get out of all of these windows, because we've talked about a lot of this stuff. Someone asked if I already talked about the Kratos stuff. Yes, I did. What is this? The Bob Chapek. Oh yeah. This is another thing too. Where is it? Okay, so this is from, I think this is Bellany. Yeah, Bellany, this report he wrote a couple of days ago, I think. 6 days ago. He said, my emails and DMs have been filled with disbelief that Ellison would leverage the lifestyles and family connections of so many employees as collateral in a legal war. I don't know why people are in disbelief about this. Never trust any of these billionaires. They don't give a fuck about you. They just want to make money off the backs of you because they think they're elite. They think that they have the special gene that you don't have. You're the worker bee. They're the queen. You work for them. They don't give a fuck about you. That's the truth. So these people, I love humanity, right? But I think human beings are sometimes too good because they think people won't do the things that they will do for money. And these billionaires will do anything and fuck over anyone for money. I was not surprised that he was willing to uproot a bunch of families, fuck their kids being in schools that they love, fuck their houses that they're doing well and living and establishing and putting roots down. Fuck all that. Now you got to move to Austin, or now you got to move to Nashville, or now you got to move, God forbid, to somewhere in Florida. Like, it's those kinds of things that you see. And I don't mean, God forbid, Florida in terms of like, I don't think it's a bad state. I love Tallahassee, and there are cities I love there, but places in Florida that are super red, God forbid, right? But he doesn't care about that shit because he doesn't. And I think his moves, that stupid op-ed piece he wrote in the NY Times when he was like, they're making it political. Bullshit. You got CNN. You made it political. That's what you wanted. Stop lying. And then the other stuff of like threatening to move out. Then the $1.8 billion bond, which apparently they've got to wait till September 24th for the judge to make a full judgment on that. He wants the taxpayers to fund the ticking fee that he agreed to in the deal with Warner Brothers. The taxpayers didn't tell him to agree to that, but he wants the taxpayers to do it because these state AGs are launching this lawsuit and stopping this Nepo baby from getting his new toy. That's what it's all about. And so to me, this is what's frustrating when you watch this stuff. And I wish more people would fight back against this. I wish more people would stand up and fight back against this stuff. But everyone is so on their phones, that's why I love Generation Alpha. Generation Alpha fights. Generation Alpha gets in the pit. Generation Alpha doesn't mind calling you out to your face. Generation Alpha is out there confronting ICE and confronting police officers and confronting people doing bad things. They're confronting the people doing bad things, and I appreciate that. We need more of that. I wish there was more of that. So, 2 separate Paramount executives told Matt Bellany they'd quit rather than relocate. A known screenwriter texted that he'd never pitch the studio again if it leaves town. A film student messaged that he'd crossed Paramount off his wish list for a potential entry-level assistant job because the company might move so far from the creative community he wants to join. Remember in 2021 when Disney's CEO Bob Chapek announced that 2,000 Imagineering employees would be shifted to Florida because of its business-friendly climate? Tons left the jobs, many more complained, and then Disney canceled the move after Chapek was fired. That's the thing. So it's super important to be a part of this stuff. And be aware of this stuff and see what's going on here. So, yeah, that's the thing. Oh, hold on. I'm getting a text from my lady. Hold on. Might be dinner time. What is up, hon? Sorry, I have to touch base with the lady. What is up? So I just wanted to make sure you all had a fuller picture of all this stuff that's going on here. So, all right, so let's get out of all of these. I think maybe I should just answer. Oh, one thing here I want to say, which is pretty great for those of you who don't know. Speaking of transparency, here are the Lanterns numbers. Lanterns pulls in 9.3 million viewers in its first 3 days on HBO Max. That's pretty amazing. It represents the biggest premiere for a DC studio show on HBO Max to date, and one of the top 5 premieres on the platform overall ever. Per HBO, the show pulled in 6.6 million viewers in the US alone in the 3-day time frame. By comparison, the premiere of The Penguin drew 10.4 million viewers across all platforms and that, to be fair, that's connected to the Batman. After 11 days when it originally launched in 2024. And while not a DC show, other recent hits like It, Welcome to Derry hit 5.7 million viewers in its first 3 days last year. So pretty amazing stuff there. Congratulations to Lanterns. I imagine that number is going to be higher after the second episode because now people are talking about it. People are excited about it. So that's the situation. Let's see. One last thing. Was there anything else I was going to talk about? Because I'm running out of time here, unfortunately. These subjects took quite a lot of time to go through. I'll save the rest for the hot mic tomorrow and the Geek Buddies coming up as well sometime today. So we will see here. All right. Let's get to these Streamlabs and Super Chats because I do got to get some dinner here. Thank you to everybody who sent stuff in while I was talking. CC Black, Disney should go all in with X-Men. Xavier Mansion at a park would be awesome. Could be a cash cow, relate to the younger generation. That's a great point. Yes. X-Men Mansion would be so much fun at the park. I'm trying to get into that roller coaster for Fast and Furious at Universal. Tom Hiffman, what's up, Tom? Says, hey, Rocha, agreed. You're putting in the work. Any chance you do a physical media collection video and pick up videos every few months? I'm getting back into collecting, and I'd love to see what others have and the stories behind it. Well, the one sitting on my desk right now, some of you have seen these already, but over the weekend, or the last few weeks rather, Barnes & Noble had an Arrow video sale. So I picked up Narc for 50% off, Weird Science for 50% off in 4K, True Romance for 50% off. I have the 10% discount, so I got Better Off Dead for 40% off on 4K, and I love Better Off Dead, and I buy it on 4K because I love that movie. And The Abyss, finally got The Abyss in 4K at 50% off, well, really 60% off with the 10% discount. So that's the ones that I have Conan the Barbarian 4K coming tomorrow, and I will have Excalibur 4K coming next week. Both of those 50% off in the Arrow sale. So that is there. I also recently bought some Criterion, but those are out in the garage. I got to move those back into the room here. So that's what I'm buying. So yes, I should do a video of all my stuff, but I mean, I've got to create a massive, I think I'm going to move everything over here, and I'm going to move the desk back against the wall and get some smaller bookcases, or I'm going to get like a green screen, whatever, to do a bigger screen to do that. So we'll see. CC Black says, it was announced Iman Vellani is doing a weekly countdown. A Doomsday podcast for the MCU starts August 27th. Yes, I saw that. It's with the Latino guy. What's his name? Frank Alvarez. Frank Alvarez is doing it with her. I listened to their 1-minute intro for it. So congratulations to Frank. And Iman Vellani is perfect. You want to appeal to the young people. And Iman has already shown that she knows a lot about comic books. So it makes all the sense in the world. I mean, we should do something on the Geek Buddies where we count down or talk about the Avengers films. That would be fun. Gesk says, Angela Bassett turned the role down for money reasons, and that Storm was a glorified extra in the film. I've never heard that. I don't know where you're getting that from, but if you want to send me a link, I've never heard that. And I followed that shit like crazy back then. I've never heard that. Verse says, hi, John. What's up, Verse? Sorry for jumping in late. I missed whether you already covered this. The bribes. Ellison promised 30 movies or pay the theater's penalties. He's literally paying to secure approval. Oh, yeah. No, listen. He absolutely has greased the palms of these theater owners with this 30-movie promise. And I think the theater owners want to believe this bullshit because They don't want the industry to go to a standstill. They want films to constantly be coming out in their theaters, which I don't blame them for. They're a business. They want to keep theaters filled with movies. I totally get it. I don't agree with their positions, but I understand their positions, right? And I would not be surprised that there are some form of bribes, not necessarily money changing hands, but promises, not just with theater owners, but with some of these entertainment websites who have all of a sudden popped up in favor of the merger, and some of these unions. Just saying. Verse also says, and never forget Netflix bowed out after meeting with Trump's DOJ. That's right. Yeah. What's his face? Sarandos said, yeah, no, I'm good. Right. Fred says, it's funny how the Death Eaters in Harry Potter are so much like the MAGA in that they'll follow Voldy no matter how much he hurts them. Well, some of them. To be fair, we're seeing more and more Republicans turning on Trump and leaving the MAGA movement. And we're seeing quite a few of the Trump choices losing in the primaries. Andy Ogles, that Mills guy. And I think, honestly, if the South Carolinians are smart enough, they won't vote for Lindsey Graham's sister either, because she looked like a moron on that debate stage. And Hannity essentially trying to save her on his show last night was ridiculous. Oh no, my people care about trans people in sports, even though that's less than 1% happening in the world. They care more about that than Taiwan. It's like, it's the dumbest thing in the world to say, I'm a yokel. I don't understand taking pride in that nonsense. You got to care about what's going on in the world, because it does affect products, goods, import, export, prices. All of that shit is connected. This idea that you don't need to know what's going on in other countries or where the countries are located, if you're a senator, is some dumbass shit. And I hope South Carolina is smart enough to go like, we deserve better. We deserve better. So yeah, I hope they do that. All right. Any more Streamlabs? Oh yes. Phil says, quick show of love for our boy Rocha. Thank you, Phil. I hope WB never lawyers up versus Hot Mic of the Geek or the Geek Buddies. Also, if we ever get to that point where we're big enough to be lawyered, I'd be happy. Also, quick salute to the treasured days of the Outlaws rewatch / first watch of the MCU on stereo. Love that so much. Come on, you Spurs. Dude, you guys look good. I like the pickups you've made. I'm sad Robbo is going to be in a Tottenham shirt. You might get Cody now too, but I like the moves you've made, man. That team looks very formidable. It might surprise some people. No one's picking you guys in the top 5. I would not be surprised if you guys find yourself in the top 5. I think Deserve is going to a good coach for you guys as well. What's up? Lulu says, hooray for the first episode of The Truth this week. Thank you, Lulu. Appreciate you, man. Much love. Fredtastic says, just because you give in to the merger, it doesn't mean they won't move anyway. Exactly. Especially if they know how much it can hurt LA and California. We know how hateful and vindictive this administration is, for sure. Fight the good fight and don't do a Schumer. Exactly. No more Schumers, for fuck's sakes. We need to be done with Schumers. Let's see. Is there anyone else that I missed here? No. And then I think John sent one last one here. John Lawless says, have you ever done crossover with the Hot Mic? I could see Corey from Double Toasted, you and Jeff. That would be fun to listen to. You're so right. We've had Drew Taylor come on a few times. Christian's going to come on to promote his Kickstarter down the road. We should definitely get Corey from Double Toasted. I should get Adam on from Heroes Reforged. My boy Griffin Schiller from Film Speak. I think we should definitely have them on. I should do a better job of scheduling those guys, but there's so much I'm carrying, guys. So we will see. We will see. All right. I think that's everything. I think I should go. We've gone over 2 hours. I should get out of here. Go get some dinner. You guys are amazing. I'm sorry we didn't get to everything I wanted to get to. I think Indy Navarrete definitely has a shot to be a part of Heat 2 still, while also doing the X-Men stuff. There's rumors she's going to take a smaller role, so we'll see. And as far as the X-Men stuff, Charles Melton getting into the Naruto movie for Destin Daniel Cretton. Listen, you got to get your bag. He's going to get paid more doing that than he would for Beast. It makes sense. However, there may still be negotiating for Beast. Destin Daniel Cretton directed Spider-Man. So I think Marvel could maybe negotiate something to maybe have him in both movies. We'll see. So I don't think he's out of the running for Beast yet, but we'll see. And we'll cover that more tomorrow with the Hot Mic, 4 p.m. PT, the Hot Mic Live, 4 p.m. PT tomorrow. I'll let you know about a Geek Buddies episode when I can lock down Mike and Shannon to record with me over the next 2 days. So we'll see. All right. Thank you. Oh, guest says the route 125, 25, 20. Okay. I'll take a look at that. Thank you, bud. I appreciate it. All right, that's it. I got to get on out of here. As I tell you guys at the end of every one of my solo shows, please, for the love of God, my friends, I know it's tough out there. I had a pretty bad mental health day a couple of days ago. I was recovering from it yesterday. It can come at you from nowhere, y'all. I mean, I pretty much just, I sat there feeling pretty depressed most of Tuesday, and was able to spill the tequila, but before and after, I was pretty much a mess. Yesterday, I had a little bit of ramifications, which is why I basically took the day off. But I'm back today doing a show because I feel better today. So I get it. I've been there. I know what it's like. So for any of you that are struggling, I just tell you, it happens to all of us who have this stuff and have this condition, these mental health issues. It's life, unfortunately. It comes out of nowhere. It can hit you. It's the first time in months I've been in a bad place about this stuff. So that's life. But I'm telling you, I cheer for you. I root for you. I'm just telling you have your tools, understand what to do in those moments, and figure out whatever you need to do to get through the next second, next minute, next hour, next day, next week, next month, next year. I want you to do that because I want you around. I want you here. So many of you have been with me for such a long time. Thank you so much. Thank you for supporting the channel. Thank you for getting us where we're at. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, you're watching for the first time, please subscribe. Hit that bell button so you see what drop of the content. Leave your comments down below. Subscribe to our podcast feed that we have there. All the shows except for the Hot Mic and the Geek Buddies are on there. So please do that as well. But telling you all, let me entertain you. Let other people entertain you. Find a good movie, music, TV show, whatever it is. Do what you need to do to get yourself in the right frame of mind so you can keep coming back. And I say this as well. There's a new thing I've added for those of you who struggle through the tough times and you think you can't make it. You're undefeated so far. If you're still here, you're undefeated against the hard times because you've made it out of those hard times every time. So let that give you some inspiration. Let that give you some hope and some power in your life. All right? All right. I love you. Take care of yourselves. Be well. And we'll talk to you next time with a brand new episode of the Mother Effing Truth here on the John Rocha channel. Take care, everybody. Have a good day.